Greetings, Benjamin J. from BENZTRAINZ with another in the series. Well, a follow-up on that 999 that arrived today. I got this for 10 bucks on eBay. I was the only bidder. And if you watch the original video, this thing was dead as the proverbial hammer when it came out of the box. And then just a few minutes, and it was up and running. A couple of drops of oil, and I scraped the main contactor so I could get some continuity through it and get some track power to that motor. Excuse me. Anyway, I just want to do a follow-up video. I've touched up the paint. There was a spot on the front of the pilot, and there was a spot right there. That wasn't quite bare metal, but it was down. And if you notice, there's no great amount of play wear to this at all, even on the sharp edges. I haven't touched up anything on the cab. And so it had almost no play time at all, as you can see. And if you look at the numbers, this looks virtually new. So I'm betting that was run who knows how long. Not much. There's very little wear on the main contactor. Anyway, it very likely wound up under a bed or in the back of a closet in a box and sat there, very likely, for as long as I have been alive. This is 1950, so it's at least 60 years old. And it is in just absolutely splendid condition. Anyway, I've taken it apart, lubed it, tuned it, cleaned the shell. I took it apart and plunked it down in a sink of hot soapy water, and I have a real soft brush that I scrub it with. And then I have oiled the paint, and by tomorrow this oil will have penetrated, and this locomotive is going to look virtually new. I mean, this thing looks really, really good. So I've got it on track number 1, pulling 12 Marx cars. I just want to do a follow-up video on this. This is running just absolutely perfectly, as you see. Now that's 40% power. Pulling 12 cars. And all I have done to it is lube it, tune it, and clean it. Nothing else. No repairs were necessary at all. 10 bucks on eBay, and I was the only bidder. So the original ad had one photograph, no description of any kind. It said, unknown gauge, really heavy, marked 999. That was it. That was the entire description with one photograph. So when I see these things inexpensive, I buy them, regardless of their condition. The parts they contain are worth more than 10 bucks, no doubt. But in any case, I was pleasantly surprised. When I took this out of the box, it was just in really, really decent condition. It was filthy, yes. It had been sitting for 60 years. But as far as mechanically, there's nothing wrong with it. As you see, there's very little play wear, almost no play wear at all. The numbers are perfect, and no damage. Doesn't look like it's actually been run very much at all. So it runs perfect forward and reverse, as you see. So another 999, 10 bucks on eBay. And I've got to say it, don't overlook the junk. I was the only bidder on this locomotive. And it is really gratifying to find these things really, really inexpensive in this condition. And as you can see, this looks really, really good. It looks almost new. And like I said, by tomorrow, this paint will have this oil will have penetrated the paint, and this is going to look really, really nice. Did a couple of small paint touch-ups. There was a scratch here on the pilot, and a bit of light paint right there. So I touched it up, oiled it. Of course, I plunked it down into a sink of hot soapy water, scrubbed it with a soft brush to get all the grime and the actual dirt off of it. This thing was filthy. I mean, it was just absolutely covered in dirt. And then once I got the dirt off of it and dried it, it actually looked quite good. And so a bit of touch-up on these two spots, and a soft brush, a few drops of oil to oil this paint, and I have a really, really decent 999 that looks almost new, as you can see. No damage to this at all. It looks nice. It runs absolutely splendidly. Of course, it was dead as a hammer when it came out of the box. And the reason for that was it had been sitting, like I said, 60 years or longer. It had been a long, long time since this had been run. And when you find them like this and been sitting that long, oxide has covered all of the contacts. In this case, the armature was probably just covered in oxide. And of course, the main contactor was covered, and it would buzz. That's all it would do. So I scraped the main contactor with a razor blade, got it running a bit. And then once it begins to run, that armature is turning, and it just scrapes all of the oxide off the armature. And usually in a minute or so, these things will just come to life. But as you can see, it was definitely worth $10. It runs absolutely superbly, just absolutely perfectly. So it looks good, it runs well, and it was really, really inexpensive. $10. Really difficult to beat that combination. Anyway, I just want to do a quick follow-up. I'll be running this the rest of the night. And now that this thing is clean, you can see that this is a really, really nice example of an original Marx 999. I mean, this looks almost new. No play wear to it at all. Very, very little runtime. Like I said, it's very likely been sitting under a bed or in the back of a closet. Very likely as long as I have been alive. It's been a long, long time since this has been on a rail. But as you see, there's no damage, there's no rust, no play wear, no dings, no dents, nothing. It's in just absolutely splendid condition. And I didn't do anything to it. Just cleaned it and lubricated it. And still had the original headlight in it. And the headlight was loose. And while I had it apart, I went ahead and put a new headlight in it. But I save all the old original bulbs. But in this case, I put a new headlight in it and puts out a good bright white light. But I just want to do a follow-up video on this. Don't overlook the junk. A Marx 999 in really, really excellent condition. $10 on eBay, and I was the only bidder. Really hard to beat that. Like I said, it's really gratifying to take an old Marx locomotive that hasn't run in your lifetime and bring it back to life. And it took almost nothing. A few drops of oil. The rest of it was cleaning and lubrication. I haven't had to do anything to it at all except touch up one little spot there and one spot here. The rest of it is completely original. And then, like I said, by tomorrow, this paint will have penetrated this oil will have penetrated this paint, and this is going to look almost new. Even the screws themselves have no corrosion, no oxide, no rust, nothing. This is in really, really excellent condition. So just a quick follow-up video. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email. BENZTRAINZ@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.